making your community more resilient, following a disaster. Things like, being able to respond, as you know, to all the CERT programs, being able to respond to, taking care of yourselves, your families, your coworkers, your neighborhoods, until first responders get out there, because they are affected by the same disaster. And that's all part of your CERT training. So again, I commend you for taking the time, taking the training, and really committing to your community through the CERT program. It's an invaluable resource for a lot of first responders and for your neighbors and everybody else involved. So again, really thank you for that. That's huge.
Thank you.
Now, what we're going to do is talk about the community warning system. The system is, have you guys heard of it at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
heard it every Wednesday.
Right. The sirens are a piece to that puzzle, right, of learning. Those sirens are to grab your attention. People hear the sirens. What's the first thing they do when they hear a siren? What are you supposed to do when you hear a siren?
Turn on the radio.
Right? Turn on the radio.
Close your doors, close your windows.
Close doors, windows. You want to shelter in place.
Right.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit later. But the majority of people want to run outside and see what's happening.
Right.
Or they get on the phone, trying to call around to find out what's happening. Not many people know what to do, or they do, but they don't take the action that they're supposed to. Because curiosity and the fact that we haven't activated the siren since 2012, right? So it just doesn't happen every day. So yeah, the sirens are a piece. The warning system is a very comprehensive, integrated system designed to alert the public of imminent threats to life or health. That's very key here. We don't activate it unless there is an imminent threat to life or health. There's a lot of notification systems out there. How many of you heard of Nixle? N-I-X-L-E. It's used quite often with local police departments.
Right.
Cities use it a lot to notify the public of an auto accident or road closures or farmers market road closures, rerouting traffic. It's a great resource, but and that's very common county or nationwide. But what we do is what distinguishes our notification system or alert system from any others is only if there's an imminent threat to life or health, and only if it's in Contra, Costa County. These imminent threats could be anything, all hazards. It could be gas leaks, it could be power lines down, it could be a hazardous material release, whether it be at one of the refineries, chemical plants, it could be a traffic, it could be a train. Anytime that there's an imminent threat, it could be I think I said power lines down, gas leaks. It could be law enforcement activity. It could be fire. If there's an imminent threat to life or health, we may activate the system. I say may because there's a lot of variables involved, and I'll also talk about that a little bit. But we activate if there's an imminent threat, and how we send out our message is also extremely important. We have about 10 different ways to get the message to you. That could be anything from home phone numbers to cell phone numbers to email, text, social media, and Facebook and Twitter. We have a website, radio, television. Again, the sirens to get your attention to go turn on that television or turn on the radio, get inside into a safe place. But there's many different ways to get the message to the public, because not everybody has internet access. Not everybody has a cell phone. So we got to think of ways to reach the public. And that's a very unique system. We kind of lead the pack in terms of the warning system in the country, because with one click of a mouse, we can activate all those conduits, all those tools to get the message to the public within minutes. It used to be where, you have to activate, send it to your home phone, and then to your cell phone, and then maybe to email. So it took some time. Out of those ways I mentioned to get the message to the public, what do you think the quickest way to get the message to you would be? Cell phone, email, text, home phone, website?
Text, because you can send it all out at once to a bunch of different numbers would be the fastest way to get them, I would think.
Text is very fast.
Yeah.
Email is fast. Cell phone is very fast. Website is very fast. Within minutes of us activating any system or any alert, it gets posted onto our website. When it gets posted onto our website, you not only get the message, but you'll get a map, and then you'll get a what we call a polygon, an affected area of the county that's being impacted by the hazard. So you could actually, without even looking at it, you can see that who's impacted by this. That's one of the quickest ways. Cell phone's also very quick. Within minutes, your cell phone should be ringing once we activate it, if you are indeed in the hazard zone. In order for that to happen, you need to register your cell phones. You need to register those devices. Register your cell phone, email, text number if it's different. How to register is on our website, as I mentioned earlier. It's a very easy process. You can select up to 3 addresses, 3 phone numbers, and 3 email addresses per account. So, work, home, if you have a family member or a school, you can put all those addresses down. Same with the cell phone numbers. The cell phone numbers don't have to be even here. You can have family members that live, say, in New York. They can receive the alert that something is happening in your area, right? Now, this is for one account. If you have more people that you want to add, say, for instance, you have a family of 5, you could open an account, put 3 phone numbers, 3 emails, 3 cell phone number, 3 text numbers, and their addresses, and then you can open another account, and then add another 3, right? And you can do that to cover everybody. So those are really cool. And the little documents here, they kind of give you an idea of what the options you have when you register. Say, for instance, you put 3 phone numbers down. You could choose for each number whether you receive just a call, just a text, or a text and a phone call. If you're any kind of potentially a responder, because you're CERT members, you probably want to do text. I would highly recommend to do text and phone call and email if you have a smartphone. That way you're going to get notified. Your phone's going to be blowing up if something's happening in your area, and you kind of want it to, because there's an imminent threat to life or health, right? And that's why you guys joined the CERT program. You want to be able to respond. So even if you're at a workplace where you can't have your cell phone on, I mean, you can leave it on buzz, it's going to buzz. Our system is designed that if you don't answer your phone or we get a voicemail, we're going to call you back 3 different times every 10 minutes because we're trying to get a hold of you. But we'll also leave you a voicemail. We'll also send you a text. That text message, because of the limited characters, won't take the whole message, so there'll be a headline. The evacuation orders for such and such street, the crossroads. And then you see that, and then you know what to do. You might want to check your email or check your voicemail or go to the website and get the entire message, right? But it's going to alert you with a headline if you get a text. Email, of course, it'll be the entire message. The really important thing is that the message will always be the same no matter who's getting it anywhere in the country or in the county, right? If it's happening in East County, those folks that are impacted will get everybody registered will get that exact same message, which is really, really important. And they're going to get it from us directly. They're not going to get it from the media, or not going to get it from some other source, because as you know, the more the longer the track of that message, the more possibilities of it becoming incorrect. So you're going to get it from us directly. It's an automated message. Again, we try to reach you 3 different times if we don't get a hold of you, and then we leave a message, and we leave, of course, the text message and then an email. Any questions? Mm-hmm. The other really cool thing about the registration, which is new, is you can also we have all of what we call a facilities alert. So any of the facilities in the county, the Dow Chemical or any of the refineries, as you can see on this sheet, you can checkbox. You can receive alerts from all of them if anything is happening in any one of those facilities, or you can leave them blank and not get any of them. However, if there's a big facility, one of the refineries has a big incident, you're going to get alerted of it. But you can also get alerted of any others in the county, which is important. As first responders, you're going to want to know, because if something is happening that doesn't seem remotely close to you, especially if it's a refinery or a chemical plant. You got wind, and you got wind speeds and wind directions, so you could get impacted by it. And not necessarily impacted by the disaster, but the influx of people getting out of the danger zone might come this direction, right? So there's a lot of things that could happen, and you would be aware of it because you know what's happening at any of the refineries. If there's anything that's affecting the public, you would get notified. It doesn't have to be in your neighborhood, right? So that's what's really cool about the refineries and chemical plants. That's how you register. Highly recommend to let as many people as you know. In terms of a CERT program, a lot of CERT programs throughout the county during the CERT training, and you have your drill, or maybe in terms of your individual preparedness section, you could actually introduce this as well. This is part of the have a plan, build a kit, get informed. This is the get informed and have a plan. Because you can't respond if you don't know something is happening. This is so that you know something is happening, and then you can respond accordingly. So this can be incorporated into your training. We do a lot of incident commander training with the fire departments. Whoever does the training can incorporate this into it, and we would most certainly help whoever does the training kind of how to do that. You know, what part of the training, CERT training, this would really kind of fit into. And you can even start your drill with everybody getting an alert on their phones, and then they can respond to their command post.
That's a great idea.
super cool.
That's a great idea.
So you kind of really work this into your training. Let's see what else. Again, if we hear a siren anywhere in the county, you're near a siren. What's the first thing you do? Shelter in place, right? Want to get inside. Take as many people as you can with you. Take your pets in with you if you have any pets outside. Bring everything inside. Close all the doors. I don't know if everybody knows how to shelter in place, but you close all windows, close all doors. If you can't, shut off all ventilation systems. If you have any ventilation system, if there's a fireplace located, make sure you shut the flue on that fireplace. You want to turn on your radio, turn on your television, because if it's an event where a siren is going off, it's a big event and it's going to be on TV. We're gonna go right into, stopping. We're going to cut right into any kind of radio or television program, and it's going to be on there. But if you are registered, as soon as those sirens are going off, within seconds, within minutes, your cell phone will also be ringing, telling you what's happening, where it's happening, and what you need to do about it. Right, so that's extremely important. Again, that's that gap. We're closing that gap of time to try to get people, into a safe place as quickly as possible. How we register is also very important. A lot of people think that we know of something happening and we just activate the system. There has to be a request to activate it before we activate it. And that request has to come from what we call an incident commander on scene. Somebody on scene has to call us. How the process works is, let's say we have a battalion chief and there's a wildfire, and he wants or she wants a area evacuated, or avoid the area, or prepare to evacuate. Those are typically the three. Let's say she wants I need an evacuation order. They call us up, but there's typically three questions or three areas that we ask. They'll call our dispatch. Our dispatch will then call our on-duty officer. We carry laptops with us, and we'll talk about how we activate. But they'll call us. We then, at that point, we get some general information from our dispatch. We then call the incident commander on scene, and then we confirm what's happening, and then we get more details. Typically, what we get is there an imminent threat to life or health? Is there, who is impacted by it? We want to be detailed, north, south, east, west boundaries, and then what do you want the public to do about it? That's very important. If our message doesn't contain any one of those, what do you think will happen?
A lot of phone calls.
A lot of confusion, a lot of panic, a lot of phone calls, right? People start to panic because they don't know if they're part of it. They don't know what to do about it. Is there a threat? Is there not a threat? That type of thing. What kind of threat? So we have to get that specific information with an incident commander. If we don't activate. We may not activate. because we don't want to create a panic. Most of the majority of the time, we typically get that information fairly quickly. The incident commanders really kind of know, and we do incident commander training, by the way, so they know what information we need when they make a request, so we can be pretty quick about it. We get this information from the incident commander, and then we confirm it with them. Then we hang up the phone, we draft up a message, we draw up a map on our laptops. Then we call the incident commander back, and we ask her give us authorization to activate, and they say, yep, that sounds good, and then we activate the system. Then the phone calls go out. Now, we don't use all the tools every single time. Depending on the scale and scope of the incident will determine which tools we use. We're not going to activate the sirens if there is an evacuation of a 1 block radius in a neighborhood, right? We won't put it on television or radio if there is somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia that is missing and they need their medications. We'll notify the neighborhood and we'll work our way out. But again, like I mentioned before, with the click of a mouse, we can activate all of them, or we can activate just a few of them. Again, based on the severity of the incident and the scope of the incident.
So the phone system can be activated in a very targeted area, so only phone numbers around those particular addresses get called.
Good question. How we do this is we have the map of the county. Once we get our east-west, north-south boundaries, who's impacted by it, well, actually what we do is it's a polygon. We have a map and it's electronic where we could actually draw who's impacted. And typically we follow streets. And the reason we do that is we could scale down to one house. We could pick which houses to call.
Wow.
Down to the house, down to the entire county. And 1.2 million people.
That's amazing.
Right? So we could let's say we have an active shooter. And that active shooter is in this house, in that parcel, that address. We can draw a polygon, 5 block radius all the way around this active shooter, and leave that one house out of that call, out of that warning.
Oh,
so,
wow.
We don't want to call that house to give them. We don't want to give them the warning.
Right.
Right. So we can let everybody else know to lock down. We have an active shooter in the area.
But that's only people that have signed up.
Oh well. Actually, we'll call every home phone number. That's automatic.
Okay.
If they're in our 911 database.
Oh.
But it's the quickest way. I didn't cover this, but the slowest way to get the message typically is your home phone number. And the reason for that is it's a very antiquated system.
Most people don't answer their home phone numbers.
They don't answer it, or they're not home. If something were to happen right now, we wouldn't get the message. Very slow, we would leave a message at home, but we still wouldn't get it. That's why it's extremely important to do your cell phone, email, and text in this day and age, because that's the way everybody gets there.
I know in the past there were some issues with the automatic phone system call where there was a large delay. And
with the warning system?
With the warning system home phone calls. And that the system came out of the East Coast, and that there was some sort of mix-up in the past with the computer system. Is that?
With the warning system?
Yeah.
2012? We talking about the 2012?
I think it was 2012.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk about that. Do you mind if I grab a water?
Go ahead, please do.
Yeah, the 2012, I wasn't here, but I've done a lot of research. I've researched what had happened and what the issues were. It was a big stink. A lot of people.
Oh, it was a very big stink,
right.
Especially here.
Right. So that system back then, let's think about 2012. Our main conduit to get the information to you was your home phone number. Right? Again, some people didn't get the message. Some people were on, a lot of people were on the phone when we were trying to call them. Right? Really slow. Our system was designed to call you back, but they were on the phone for a long period of time. So it kept, some people didn't have voicemail back then. They had an answering machine possibly still. We didn't have technology like this today where we had text message and you couldn't get, text message and your email and the whole bit all on your phone. So we were very limited in terms of ways to get the message to the public. Now, the primary way was your home phone number. Again, it's a very antiquated system. Here's how, in a nutshell, how this kind of works. So say this whole neighborhood, the phone calls go through a box, right? Our system can get our phone calls out, but the important piece, which we don't have any control over, is the track it takes to get to your house. We can fire it off and it's gone out of our system. Then it goes to this box in this neighborhood, right? And then, because if we're sending thousands of them, you can't overload the system. So what happens is they go into this box, and then this box sends them out in batches to people's houses.
So it sits in a queue. They
Right,
sit off the-
yeah,
okay.
basically, to clear it so that it doesn't overload.
Right.
So you may get the call in one block, and then maybe 5 or 7 minutes later, you might get the call and you're only 3 blocks down, right? So it sends it in batches based on the number that it's calling. So that's a very slow way, and it's still that way. It's designed that way because you can't overload the system. When we're sending out calls, say we have to send out 20,000 calls or 10,000 calls. It is a big event, and people don't answer their phone. Guess what? Remember I said we have to call back. We call back every 10 minutes, 3 different times. So guess how many calls we really have to make,
Right.
because people didn't answer it, or we got a voicemail, or we got a busy, somebody was on the line and didn't go to voicemail. So all of those things are into play. The slowest way is that home phone number. We're not there. It's a slow way to get it, and that's what happened in 2012. That's one of the things that happened. There was some other issues with that particular provider as well. They tested it, but they didn't. It basically dropped a lot when it was happening right during the event.
I was actually impressed with how well it, at least in my house, I got the
The
alert.
2012.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Chevron, the big, yeah, yeah.
A lot of it, there was two big issues. One, antiquated system, that our primary was the home phone, and the second was education and outreach. What the capacity was with the system, there wasn't very much of that. People just assume we have a warning system and somebody's going to call me when something bad happens. But when something big like that happens, again, we may know that to shelter in place when you get the call. Most people, I would say a lot of people who live near a refinery know that when they hear a siren, they're supposed to go inside. But do they take that action? A lot of times they don't. A lot of times they hear that siren and they'll run to the door, or they'll run out to the street and they'll look to see what's happening. So a very important piece to this, and I can't mention it enough, is education and outreach. We could build one of the most efficient, state-of-the-art systems in the world, but if people don't take the action that the warning system was intended to trigger, then it's worthless. Right? We have a big, integrated, comprehensive, state-of-the-art system, but people aren't reacting to it. There are arguments about, well, that's not our responsibility. We can only get the call to them. We can only get the message to them. But it's moments like this which is extremely important. You have to get in front of people and we have to talk. And this is, we utilize CERT. CERT is an extension of extending our reach, so to speak. Because you're learning this, you're training other CERT members, you're training your communities, you're getting the word out, they're getting registered, they're getting brochures. That's absolutely huge. It wasn't happening as often then as it is now. We've given 52 presentations this year alone, and I think I've given 40 of those.
Wow.
Just to date, just trying to get people educated on what this system is and to spread the word and incorporate this into your CERT training. CERT's, again, a very valuable resource in terms of response, in terms of education and outreach. But that was the biggest problem, was in 2012. Home phones mainly, and then the system didn't operate up to par. We have a new, actually this is the second provider since 2012. They're called ATHOC, A-T-H-O-C, Department of Defense, the military base notification system globally, so they're really good at what they do. This is, the Contra Costa County is their first community warning system. So they're taking a lot of information from us about, there's certain military notification that you can't use for the public. You can't go and tell the public what to do. Military, they blast it out, they have to take, they gotta take that order. Here, the public, you can't make the public do that. You can only educate now, you gotta kind of change the messaging, so to speak. It's an urgent thing, but it's not a command. So the messaging changed a bit. But it's a reliable system. You can look them up online. It's called adhoc.com is the website. But they're big. They're really big and they're really successful. And as a matter of fact, Contra Costa County has a big video on their website about community warning. And there's a whole video about our system and how it works. It might be a good thing to show during the
absolutely.
training as well. Any questions? Any other questions at all?
How long does it take, like say there's a refinery explosion? About how long?
I'm sorry, what kind of?
A refinery explosion. Okay. About how long after that refinery explosion do we hear the sirens?
Another very good question. We have trained all the refineries. All have the same terminal, activation terminal that we have at the sheriff's office. Every single refinery, chemical plant. Then we also train their staff. There's a certain notification staff that's their job is to activate the system. They have a push button system, so basically if anything happens and it's big, they don't have to call us. They hit that button and it goes every tool that we have, it gets activated. The message is already there, shelter in place. There's an event of level 3 activation, tells people shelter in place. It basically tells you what's happening, where it's happening, and what you need to do about it. But it's automatic. They can do it from their location. We become a support role for them at that point. We may reactivate, we may update after that while they are doing their thing, but they activate themselves when there's an event because again, it's that time.
Well, if it's not something, say it's an event that wasn't a self-activation that you had to go through, what's the lag time from you, the incident commander, contacting you and then having the double check about how long does it usually take for that to happen before the messages go out?
Actually, that we're not even notified until it actually happens.
Okay.
Right? So if there's an explosion, obviously that's going to be the alert. There's somebody that's going to be in that, they have an emergency operations center in each facility. Something goes wrong, they hit that button, the sirens are going to be blaring, your phone's going to be ringing.
Well, no, I'm talking about like not at a
For
refinery.
whatever reason, they didn't hit the number.
Well, no, I'm
or
saying
if it was a non-refinery.
Right, it was a non-refinery, like something that
Right.
didn't have the capacity to self-activate. What's the lag
Oh,
time
okay.
before the event, between the event and us hearing it?
Now,
Something that had to go through the long way of the process.
That's a good question too, because it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the incident. Let's say an active shooter, as opposed to
What about like the train derails with
a
chemicals?
train derails with chemicals. What happens is, if a train derails with chemicals, for instance, you got hazmat teams. There's a whole big crew of people that, when that happens, they're already teams. They're already in place. They go and they do an assessment. They determine how bad it is. If it's a big event, a train derailment with chemicals, that's going to happen pretty quick because they know what's in these trains. And when that train derails, somebody's going to know something about this. That train, that car gets activated pretty quick. If it's a vehicle, a semi with hazardous material, that might take longer because there isn't an automatic what's in this vehicle, or how bad is it leaking, or is it flammable or not. So there's an assessment that has to take place by that team and that incident commander. They get there and they say, yeah, we got a problem. We need to evacuate this location, or we need to avoid this area. Once that assessment is done, which takes time, then they call our dispatch. Our dispatch, if it's after hours, we have 5 duty officers. We'll call who's ever on duty. We call that dispatch back, or we call that incident commander back. That takes about 5 minutes.
Okay.
From the time dispatch gets it, we get it, and we call our incident commander back. We have a rule of thumb that we need to answer and we need to respond within a 10-minute period, no matter where we are, 24/7.
Okay.
Right. So I could be like sometimes I'm on call, but I'm on a plane. I'm going to say to Arizona. During that time period that I'm on that plane, I've got somebody else covering. I get off that plane, I'm back on, and I need to, within 10-minute period, no matter where I'm at in this country, be able to respond to call an incident commander or call dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
Once we call the incident commander and they say, yeah, we got a problem, they describe what's happening, what they want, what that message is supposed to be. We hang up the phone, draft up a message, call the incident commander back. Typically, that takes about a total of around possibly 20 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, from the time the fire department or hazardous material team gets the call, they go do their assessment. Then they say, we got a problem. They call dispatch. Dispatch calls us. That takes about 5 minutes. And then probably within a 20-minute overall period, it's activated.
Okay.
From start to finish.
Okay.
Could be 30. It all depends on how bad, the size and severity, the scope of the incident.
If it's
Right.
something readily obvious where they're like, okay, call now versus, okay, well, let me see how it's going to go. Like maybe a wildfire.
A train derailment is a call now.
Yeah.
What we call an MCI incident, a mass casualty incident, it's a call now.
Uh-huh.
If it's a power lines down in a neighborhood, right, where we have live power lines laying on somebody's house in a block, that's not necessarily a call now, because what happens is we have an incident commander that goes on scene, say it could be battalion chief, and they say, oh, we got live power lines, but if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we may not want to call them right away. Right. Because what do people do when we
They're
call
going to
them?
run outside.
They're going to run outside. So they're already asleep. It's 3 o'clock. You may be putting people at risk to call them and tell them to stay inside. Mm-hmm. Than to maybe wait. How far out is PG&E, for instance? If PG&E is 5 to 10 minutes out, let PG&E get there and see if they can shut this thing down. I'd rather do that than wake everybody up and maybe somebody go outside and get injured or killed. Okay. So those decisions that are sometimes made at 3 o'clock in the morning, mm-hmm. those discussions are had. So that takes a little bit longer. Law enforcement activity is another one that takes time. Active shooter. Active shooters are pretty much, they're pretty much disabled pretty quickly. By the time law enforcement gets to a scene and there's an active shooter in place, they don't, number one, don't have a whole lot of time to call dispatch, call us, call it back. They usually eliminate the problem, disarm the problem usually within about 15 to 20 minutes if the suspect is there. Very rarely does it last very long. It doesn't last long enough for them to call, for us to draft up a message, then call people, because typically it's almost over if it's over by then. Mm-hmm. So you always keep that in mind, is, hey, how come I didn't get a call with an active shooter? It probably was pretty quick. If it's not, Martinez had one that was 19 hours a few months back. That was crazy. There were people locked down for 19 hours at work. The whole food and water thing. There was just people that weren't they couldn't leave. They had everything barricaded off, blocked off, and this guy was in the middle, and he had just committed murder, so this was a serious thing. That's very unusual. We sent out several of those. We sent out several alerts at that particular time and updates based on what was happening. So it just varies. Most of the time, it's usually within about a 20-minute period from the time dispatch gets a call to us and then us activating it once we get all the information. But it's very, very, very important for us to get accurate information from somebody in charge on scene. Sometimes that takes a little bit longer because they're in the middle of whatever's happening, and they usually stop and they say, this is what's happening, this is what we want the public to do, and this is where it's happening. Mm-hmm. Right, we get that and then we shoot it off.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. As mentioned before, we can activate anywhere in the country. We can fire off all the 43 sirens, 1.2 million people. We can activate the phones. We can activate cell phone, email, whoever's registered, text messages from the computer, and I have internet access. And I have two phones that are hotspots, so no matter where I'm at, I can activate the sirens from here if something happened right now. There's 5 duty officers. We do have 24/7 on call, sometimes once or twice a month. We rotate, and again, if I'm on vacation in New York and somebody is on call, big earthquake happens, and he doesn't have internet access is a big problem, he can call me in New York and I can activate it from my location. Right, so we have that backup, and the refineries can activate on our behalf, and we can activate on their behalf. So we have all of that capability as well.
A lot of redundancy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. An example would be too. I think it was I was on 680 driving from I think Antioch to Fairfield, and I get a call. There was a wildfire in the Antioch area. And they wanted to, very complicated, I had to pull over to the side of the road, and they wanted an evacuation in one neighborhood and a couple of blocks, and they wanted to prepare to evacuate in another few blocks, and then they wanted to avoid the area in another area within the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I'm on the side of the road, and I had my laptop and my hotspot because I had no the internet. Right. And how do you activate the system and not confuse the public by prepare to evacuate, and avoid the area in the same area? Right, so, and then of course, the incident, that's what I need, and they hang up. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I not confuse people and get people to prepare to evacuate when they're supposed to evacuate. So I had to do 3 different messages and be really precise about what houses are going to get this message. The only issue, the only problem that could have arose there was that they may not be in their house and get the message on their cell phone because they could be at a neighbor's house in the area that's supposed to prepare to evacuate. So their neighbor may get it prepared to evacuate, and they live two blocks down. We're supposed to evacuate. Mm-hmm. So it's that we couldn't do anything about that other than the fire department was there, the law enforcement was there, knocking on doors, trying to get people out. We had to try to reach them somehow, even if they weren't home. Yeah. Our goal was, if you were at work, you still would get the message to evacuate or prepare to evacuate or avoid the area, so you wouldn't go home. Right. And that's extremely important for us as well, is to reach the people that weren't in the area that still got that were still registered to receive the alert.
So if we get a message on our phone, that message is tailored to us, and if we happen to be at the neighbor's house and they get a different message, it's not unheard of for 2 people to get a different message.
Or one gets it, one doesn't.
Or one gets it and one doesn't.
Right. You could be across the street.
Right.
Your neighbor can get a call and you not.
So do what it says on your phone.
Right. If you don't get a call and you're at your neighbor's house 2 houses down and they get the call, do whatever's happening where you're located. Right. With your neighbor.
Right.
Because that house is impacted.
Right.
Your house, 4 houses down, 3 houses down is not. Okay. For whatever reason. Again, typically it's like we follow roads and to do our polygon. And again, one side of the street can get it. And that's probably one of our biggest complaints is, why did they get it and I not get it? How could I not be impacted by that? But we have to draw a line somewhere. Mm-hmm. Right? And when the incident commander says that street, if it's that street, both sides, then we'll go above follow the street and cover both sides of the street, right? Like right down the middle of their parcel. Mm-hmm. So our line touches any parcel, that parcel is going to get the call. So now we know that just the houses on both sides of the street are going to get it, not the one behind them. Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of tricky, but it's really not. Once you understand it. Once we understand it, we know what we want to cover and which houses are going to be impacted. So we try to just get those. Mm-hmm. I think I covered everything.
How do you know the difference between an evacuation signal? Well, I guess it would be this phone. You're looking at your phone message or listening where it would say whether you need to evacuate or whether you need to shelter in place.
Oh yeah, your phone. The message the heading on every message will be the action. Mm-hmm. Evacuation, shelter in place. Be on the lookout. We send out about 13 to 15 a year. The most common is typically it's somebody, a senior who's walked away from a facility or their home with Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetic, who doesn't have their medication, and their life or health is at risk. And we typically will ask for public assistance if it's on your street or in your neighborhood to give a description of that person.
And that comes through the police department, I'm assuming? The police department contacts you for that?
Well, there's a process for that. Yeah, we don't always activate for that.
Right.
It depends on the scenario, the age, the temperature outside, all of the risks. But typically it's local law enforcement will get the call. Local law enforcement will then call search and rescue. If they can't find the person, search and rescue will then search. And if search and rescue can't find the person, then they'll call for us to activate, kind of make spread that net out a little bit further to do that. We typically don't do that at night or during the dark hours, because I can't tell you how many times when we used to, we'd wake up somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning to say, be on the lookout for this person, right? And everybody's typically asleep. So they get mad and say, what do you think, I'm going to go outside and look for this person?
I always would get the Amber Alerts. The one night that I needed to be to sleep because I only had 5 hours of sleep, that would be the night I'd get an Amber Alert.
Yeah, and you can turn that off, by the way.
I know, but I don't want
You
to.
don't want to. People have the option to opt out. Ours, you have to opt in. Right, and the reason for that is it's very localized to your county only instead of the federal programs, much bigger. Our evacuation notices will always tell you not only to evacuate, but it'll tell you where to evacuate, which roads to take, and where shelters can be located. We do that because we don't want people to evacuate and then go into harm's way, go the direction of the incident. So if you get an evacuation notice, it'll tell you go down this street, go down this street, go down this street, and then there'll be maybe a Red Cross shelter or something nearby at this school or this park. So that's also something that we'll do. Try to be really precise and very short and to the point. And there'll be other resources. Go to the website, the most important thing. And any question whatsoever, if you suspect something is happening and you didn't get a call, or you don't have your phone with you, or you see a big plume of smoke and you didn't get the call, go to the website. The website, if we've activated anything, missing person or a huge event, everything will be on that website, on the homepage.
And it shows the polygon, right?
It'll show the polygon.
Okay.
It'll show you where it is. It'll show you the entire message. And there'll be some resources. Our goal is, number one, is to alert the public, also to inform the public of the basics of the incident and resources to gather more information, and then to reassure the public that what you're doing is enough to take care of yourselves, your friends, your families, your neighbors, wherever you're located.
And that's the COCOCWS.us?
That is it.
Okay.
Yep. It's a very cool, very intuitive website. It's a brand new website. We just redid it. So really easy to register there. Big red buttons on every page. It says register here. You click on that. It's like a 3-step process. And I believe that's it.
What's the one thing that you wish more people would do, and what's the one thing you wish people would stop doing?
Well, the thing I wish people would do is actually take the action. Register and educate themselves on the warning system, what the warning system's capabilities are, what to expect from it, what our messages will say, what they won't say when we don't activate it. We don't always activate when somebody says we should have activated. It all depends on the incident commander on scene. We're just a tool. We're just a tool. Somebody requests it. We have the capability to activate and to warn people. We don't make the call on whether to warn people or not. That's done by the battalion chief, fire department, the gas company, and PG&E. That's done by law enforcement at the local level. We just are a tool for them to use to help them get their job done quickly and to keep people safe. That's what I think most people would do, is to register, to receive the alerts, number one, and know what to do when they get the alert. Extremely important. And also to spread the word. Probably the least would be if you jump on the phone as soon as they get the alert. We're trying to reach a lot of people. We're trying to reach you, and a lot of times they see a big plume of smoke, they get on the phone and they're calling, right? Or they're doing the opposite that they should. They go outside when they hear the siren. That's a big thing that happened in 2012. People ran outside and were calling, saying they see fire from the refineries, but they're standing outside, right? When they need to go inside.
I wouldn't have known that.
What's that?
Now I know about sheltering in place in 2000. I was actually downtown and when I saw the smoke, somebody gave me a ride home because my mother was with me, staying at my place. But I actually was debating, well, should we leave, get in the car and leave, or, now I know.
Right.
Just
Just go inside, stay in a safe place. It's kind of like with the earthquakes. Earth starts shaking, what are you going to do? Right? You got to stay where you're at. Most injuries or deaths occur. You want to stay within 10 feet of when the shaking starts. Otherwise, people don't get killed from the shaking. They get killed from everything falling. Right? So stay in one space, stay in a safe place if you can, get under something and hold on until the shaking stops. Same with shelter in place. Go inside, close everything up, and stay in one location until you get an all clear. And now that you're registered, you will get the all clear. Don't go outside till you get it. Okay? And you'll get updates. Everything will be on the radio, television, and you'll be getting it on your phone.
What station should we listen to?
What is it?
KCBS.
KCBS, thank you. KCBS.
Which is 740.
740.
740.
740.
Yep. The TV thing will be every station. It'll be big. They call that the emergency alert system, the EAS system. That just breaks right into everything, and we're plugged into that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
That was great. Thank you.
That was so awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
doing
you're
that.
welcome. You're welcome. Again, thanks for doing what you guys do, and also make sure that spread the word. Get as many people at least informed and registered as possible. Also, I know as CERT members too. I know you guys are new, but one of the biggest things is you do your neighborhood assessments. Make sure that you know who may need help, who doesn't have internet access or cell phone. You hear a siren, keep those folks into consideration too. You want to inform them somehow because they're not getting the message. As CERT members, you want to taking care of your neighbors in your neighborhood. Do that assessment, find out, and I can assist you. By the way, I have a lot of CERT stuff. There's CERT tools to help you with documenting what resources each one of your members have in terms of who's got this, who has this kind of training. You can be a baker, you can be a construction worker, you have shovels, you have wheelbarrows. I mean, you can, with each member, you can have one document. Are you a nurse? A doctor, electrician, a baker? It doesn't even matter. Just what their skill set is and what equipment they might have, right? And then whoever the CERT leader is, they keep this information so that when something does happen, you automatically know who can do what and who has what, right? And you can kind of coordinate based on all that.
Right.
There's just a ton of ways to kind of organize and coordinate all that, and I'd be more than happy to. Maybe not now, whenever you're ready for it, just give me a call. I have it all electronically. I could send it all email-wise.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a big help.
Huge help. Yeah, because that's where we're at right now is we're trying to coalesce all this information and get more people CERT trained within the neighborhood so that we can respond if it's needed. And it's such early stages at this point.
The most important thing is being able to be resilient. You're bouncing back, bending but not breaking in terms of the neighborhood. This is going to be a pretty I drove around here a little bit before I came out, and this is going to be a pretty isolated area in terms of all the houses in these small little roadways that are winding in through on the hillside and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that stuff's going to be inaccessible by first responders, possibly with a big earthquake. If that's the case, it really is going to be the neighborhoods taking care of each other, neighbors, and I mean, in terms of an opportunity to talk about that threat without talking about scaring people, but the threat, that real threat, and just saying, hey, you know what? Just take this training. You live right down the street, and we'll only call you if you need you. And if we call you and need you, that's because something big has happened, and first responders aren't coming out for a while. Right, so it's a very simple message, but also something that's very important. Yeah. It's a very important thing to have in a neighborhood.
And it's kind of funny because, as we've all known, when we've seen any kind of disaster throughout the country, even Harvey, neighbors end up helping each other anyway. It's not, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to take CERT training because I don't really want to be a first responder. It's like, sweetie, we're all going to be first responders.
And
it's just
no
whether
longer-
you're going to have the training or
And
not.
I'm going to tell you something. There are two issues. There are two things I've seen in my lifetime where the masses, I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of people come together. One is a natural disaster. It doesn't matter what political affiliation, what religious, what color you are, it doesn't matter any of that. What nationality. When something happens, people are almost willing to die to help somebody else or bring somebody into their households or take care of them. This is a perfect example with this. I mean, masses. You're talking tens of thousands of people. You see it a lot in the Midwest with tornadoes. Those people are used to the tornadoes. They hear the sirens, but when it's over with, the people come out of the woodwork. I have several friends. I used to work for the Red Cross. I had a state position out in Oregon, Southwest Washington, so we did a lot of training for shelter operations. And I traveled a lot internationally. The Nepal earthquake, been to South Africa, helped with their wildfires out there. You see people that, doesn't matter, natural disaster, they're out and they're responding, trying to help somebody, and they're risking their own lives to do this. This is the importance of CERT. And the other one is a sporting event. You have 72,000 people at a football game, and their home team wins the winning touchdown with 2 seconds left in the game. The masses are like, you're my best friend because you're standing next to me. The same thing. Doesn't matter what political affiliation, what color you are.
We're all Giants fans.
Right? You're cheering and you're hugging each other and you're celebrating, and there's just not a better feeling. It's interesting that it's those two events that I've seen where humanity, everything comes together and people are willing to celebrate, or they're willing to risk their own lives to save another human being. Right, so it's not a matter of, right now I don't want to be a responder, but typically when it happens, everybody kicks in because it's just the humanness in all of us.
Yeah, and CERT just gives you the tools and the training to be able to do it well and safely.
Safely is the most important. You do it safely. You don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be another victim of this incident, especially if you just get some training.
And there's one other time that people come together like that.
What's that?
Hot craps tables. When you're on a hot craps table, everybody standing at your craps table is your best friend for life.
Of course, especially when you got that big.
You're hugging each other and crying, and you can't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Or the slot machine.
Yeah, the slot machine.
You win thousands of dollars. You hear the big
So
buzz,
everybody's
runs
your
that
friend.
machine. Everyone runs the slot machine. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me come out and have
Thank you
a short
so
discussion
much.
with you about it. Any questions whatsoever in terms of the warning system, in terms of preparedness? I do a lot of it, individual and family and business preparedness. So if you workplaces, we come out and we have discussions about how to prepare your business, at least in terms of how to become more resilient at work. Schools, we do a lot of schools, school staff, parents at schools. So any of that, give us a call. We'll try to accommodate whatever they may need or whatever you may need.
Okay.
In terms of CERT, let me know. I've got a lot of resources.
Excellent.
Got
Great.
A lot of tools for you guys to use.
Thank you,
You are welcome.
so much. And again, that email, I'm going to show it one more time. That's the website.
www.cococws.us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.